What is up, everyone? Welcome to S-TEC Live. I apologize for the interruption earlier. We are still learning a lot here, but we are going to kick this thing off. As mentioned, my name is Tony. I am the social media coordinator here at the Peter E. Schmidt Company. If you don't know who we are, to be short, sweet, and to the point, we are a manufacturer representative for the New York metro territory. And that includes brands such as QSC, Shure, Furman, SKB, just to name a few. But today, the real stars are Williams AV and Audinate. So, just to give you a little of idea of what's going to be happening today, we are going to be discussing how Audinate can help you upgrade, expand, and future-proof your AV systems. And then Williams AV will discuss the latest trends and developments in assisted listening technologies. Throughout today's event, you can submit questions to be answered during the Q&A later on in the Zoom room or in the comments on the YouTube live stream, if that is where you're joining us from. We have people monitoring, and your questions will be answered by a comment in the chat or during the Q&A section. So, we have Tony Strong from Williams AV joining us, as well as Bernie and Corey from Audinate. So, I am going to pass this off to Bernie and Corey to take the stage and talk all about Audinate. So, take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
Yeah. So from a standpoint of Audinate, so we are the inventors of the Dante technologies, if you're familiar with that. Dante is a technology that was created in 2006, I believe. Aidan Williams, our CEO, was the actually one of the founders, was the inventor, is also still with us today as the CEO. But with that being said, you know, it was the reason that it was invented in the first place was to give manufacturers the ability to network their products together and make them interoperable. And it didn't matter which manufacturer it was. So it gave you the ability to, or gives you the ability to pick like a best of breed. This is my favorite product for this. This is my favorite product for this. And as long as the products say Dante on it, it gives you the ability to network those products together and have them work together in a design. So, but we were founded in 2006 and we've been growing ever since.
So, you know, Corey, there's been a lot of developers in the past that, you know, have tried to do what Dante does now.
Yeah.
Kubernetes and some others out there. You know, what sets Audinate apart from all those earlier developments, and why do we see it being deployed in so many projects these days? I mean, the vast majority of projects out there are incorporating Dante. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So to create network-based audio is very expensive for a manufacturer, especially if they're starting from scratch, right? What we've done is when we invented that technology, we made it easier for manufacturers to get into networking their products together because we've eliminated the research and development and things like that that go into creating the technology, where now they can just license the technology and then add that to their products. And you're seeing that in, you know, products as little as, you know, $150 to products that are, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. And it really just depends on the number of channels and things that you're wanting to do with the products that you're looking for.
So that cost factor is probably why we've seen so many, I guess, proprietary systems for what Dante does.
Well, right. Well, and so what you mentioned is proprietary is some of the other manufacturers that are making products that do audio and or video across the network. They're built to work within their product lines that they sell. But what Dante was created for is to give all manufacturers the ability to network their products together.
Yeah, and I would also add that there's a difference between a standard and a solution. And I would say that you know, Audinate is a solution. And when we designed it, when we developed it, we were building off of, you know, back in the early 2000s, gigabit Ethernet technology was, you know, brand new. And, you know, when you look at Kubernetes and EtherSound, you know, those were essentially first generation audio networking platforms. So we developed it with the benefit of gigabit and, you know, making it that next generation audio platform, easy to use, easy to install, and from a manufacturer's perspective, very easy to implement. You're not giving, with a standard, as a manufacturer, you're given the specifications, and it's up for your engineers to create that. And each manufacturer may deploy a standard differently. And we saw this in the early days of video conferencing, for example. You could have a call between a compression labs, there's an old name for you, codec and a compression labs. But if you wanted to have one in between that and a Tandberg, all bets were off until they worked together. So
Right. So, there's a lot of moving parts to Audinate. I mean, you guys have done so many things very, very well. There's Dante Via, Dante Sound Card. We have, of course, Dante Controller, which is just so widely used at this point. DDM, Dante Domain Manager, which is near and dear to our hearts. And of course, you also have some hardware solutions. So maybe you could just give us kind of a brief overview of each one of those, so our audience can get a feel for what Audinate kind of does in a whole.
Okay. So I'll start with Dante Virtual Sound Card. So Dante Virtual Sound Card will allow you to basically take your computer and make it part of a Dante network. Meaning if I wanted to take audio from a console or from whatever it might be in the audio system and bring it back to a PC or to a Mac for recording and do independent channel recording, I could do that using Dante Virtual Sound Card. Or if I wanted to take audio from my computer and pass that out to the Dante network, I could do that as well using Dante Virtual Sound Card. Then we have a product called Dante Via that you brought up. So Dante Via is allowing you now to take the applications that are on your computer, have them become part of the Dante network, and now allowing you to basically build an entire Dante network of nothing but computers if you wanted to. So now I can just pass audio back and forth between all the different computers on my network using Dante Via. And then I can also do some live channel monitoring and things like that with it as well.
With Via also, it's not only the applications, it allows you to take the hardware
there you go.
of your computer. It manages all the audio on your computer. So your internal mic, your internal sound card can become sources and destinations on a Dante network, as well as any like an external USB mic or a, Firewire, Thunderbolt, mic pre or audio IO interface. So it manages all your audio on your computer, including those applications. And then again, those all can become sources and destinations under your computer on the Dante network.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we'll take, you mentioned some of the hardware devices. So we have a product called Dante Avio, which is they're small little 1-2 channel input and output devices. There's a USB version as well. And then we're also have just introduced a USB-C version as well as a Bluetooth version, which now you can go Bluetooth to Dante, where you're connecting your phone or whatever back to the Dante network to play audio and things like that. And then we also have a product called Dante Domain Manager. So Dante Domain Manager gives you the ability to manage, monitor, secure your Dante network. So as you start to build out your environment and you bring in the number of devices from whichever manufacturers, plus adding Dante Virtual Sound Card, you may want to manage and monitor and better yet, secure that. And what I mean by that is you have the ability to now authorize and or authenticate users to be able to do different things within the Dante environment. So for instance, if I have an entire college campus, I might be able to sit at my desk and manage and monitor the entire campus everywhere and know that all my rooms everywhere around campus are up, running. Are they good? Is the audio working fine? And if there is an issue, it will report back with anything going on in any of those different environments anywhere around campus.
Okay. So does that incorporate with other manufacturers monitoring software, or is that just a standalone?
So either one. So it can be a standalone system that would allow you to just manage and monitor your environment. Or if you are using a third-party solution that might be, something like ServiceNow or Splunk from a managed services type of environment, or it might be something like SolarWinds, more of an IT service management platform. You
Right.
can take information from Dante Domain Manager, SNMP information about every Dante device everywhere out on the network, and then pass that back off to whatever tool you might be using to monitor the environment as well.
That's great. So today we're going to be joined by Williams AV here in a little bit, and Williams is really one of the first assistive listening manufacturers to incorporate Dante into their products. So what are the benefits of having your assistive listening and other devices on the Dante network for the integrators and for the end users?
So Bernie, you want to handle that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say,
Right.
typically it comes down to, ease of installation. And again, not that you couldn't, connect to your Digiloop or other, FM transmitter using analog, but what it does allow you to do if you use that Dante connection is it allows you to immediately, make changes on the fly. You can easily send any mix to that transmitting device, that Williams AV Digiloop or what have you, and that's really the key thing, is the flexibility. So you're able to use the network as your digital audio distribution system, and that's really the key thing. And the other thing I would add is it does allow you to remotely locate products as well, because if you're using analog, you might be, tempted to just to put everything in the equipment rack, but get on a given installation, you may need to remote something. And as long as there's a network cable there, getting audio there is no issue.
Right. And I can basically send that audio anywhere over the network that I want and
Correct.
pick it up in a different room.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's in a Dante domain, it can be in a totally different subnet as well. So it's a very powerful feature to add.
Right. Well, that's great. We really appreciate you guys being here today and just taking some, short questions from us and kind of giving us an update on Audinate. I think we're going to bring Tony Strong in now and talk a little bit about Williams Sound and assistive listening, which is a technology that's just been growing like crazy in the United States, especially in New York, where we have some mandates for that. So why don't we bring in Mr. Strong?
Hello, how are you today? Michael,
Good.
thank you very much for allowing me to participate. I am looking to share my video, but I'm not able to start my video because my host has stopped it.
Uh-oh.
So if I might have the wish I wish tonight. And Michael, with your permission, I'm going to have the opportunity to share my screen. There's a number of things that we could cover today. I know we're not going to have time for all of it, but we just want to make sure that we're giving our audiences the best view and the best glimpses of the capabilities that we have and how we're able to participate. Thank you to the guys at Audinate for just making the interoperability of different manufacturers' product lines so easy to coordinate. So if there's a facility out there that has any kind of a Dante backbone to it, they can use our products to basically make them plug and play. And now those pathways are complete. So using that Dante infrastructure means I've already got a Cat6 cable between here and there, this room to that room, this rack to that device. Why don't we use that infrastructure that's already there and in place? And that's what makes Dante just such a darn good tool to use. And we'll talk a little about that.
It has been, to steal from one of my my past associates, it has been a game changer, to say the least.
Mhm.
So, we've been going through so many changes, in the world these days, having to deal with this COVID that's kept us all at home. I'm in my home office. The rest of us are. What has Williams AV been doing to kind of adapt and to the changing markets and the different verticals that have come into play over the past year?
Right. Well, that's a great question, Michael. And I think, confirm, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, very good. there's been a number of different challenges that we have been faced with as we all, as manufacturers, as consumers, as facility management people, as AV integrators, have been trying to struggle with how do we redefine where we're going as a company and what do these things mean. So as we each carve our pathway through this kind of new normal, and I'm going to boycott the word new normal because it's not new and it's really not normal. But the situation that we're currently in is certainly consistent across all platforms. We've seen businesses that have been long established pathways of business and revenue streams completely dry up and go away. With mandates, with social distancing and masks required everywhere, these new physical barriers are adding a level of complexity to how we communicate. How is it that we get our message heard? And so to the degree to which Williams AV has played a part in that, we've been experts in the world of assistive listening for more than 45 years. So what we're going to talk about today is how you can use existing technology that already is in place in many of the infrastructure and facilities that are out there now, and how you can use that to get beyond this limitations of the social distancing platforms. And most importantly here, the message is, what can we do to adapt? And how do we get past this social distancing? So Michael, with your permission today, we're going to talk a little about ADA compliance.
Yep.
We're going to talk a little bit about some technologies in FM, infrared, digital, and where they can be deployed. And then the kinds of things where we're already manufacturing the kinds of technologies that are already in place. And so now we're retooling that message where your assistive listening products that are already mandated by ADA law federally in the United States can be used to help bridge the gap with this social distancing, with the change in our economic picture and our revenue streams. And so a lot of our products that we have here, whether it's an FM version, a caption assist, the DigiWave, the new Ampetronic Talk Perfect, or our new infrared IR Plus systems can help to navigate that pathway through how do we help people communicate and understand.
So we're going to get a lot of those questions there and some of your products. But one of the biggest pieces of news that came out of Williams AV this year was the fact that you are now the Ampetronics distributor for the United States and I believe Canada. Is that correct? Or
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
So you guys, Williams AV, were already making different type of loop amplifiers, which were some very well-made products. So what does the Ampetronics distribution bring to Williams AV right now? And where do you see the future of this technology, this loop systems?
Well, excellent question, Michael. And with the advanced capabilities that Ampetronic adds to the Williams umbrella, it really makes us kind of that loop powerhouse now in the United States and in Canada. And let me explain what that means, is that there are several different manufacturers of induction loop technology. The technology has been around for a long time. But with Ampetronic, they're unique in that it's all they do. So they're extremely advanced in their technology, in the amp drivers, in their training modules, and how those systems get implemented. But right. I think more importantly, the answer to your question is, why is the loop technology significant right now? And if it's a 40-year-old technology, why are we even still using it?
Right.
Well, there's two very good answers
right.
to that question.
Ampetronics is basically a European company, is that correct?
You are correct.
And in Europe, loop systems are just far more extensive than they are here in the United States. They're used just about everywhere in Europe.
Yes, and so loop technology for the European Union, in a lot of those places where population is very saturated, induction loops have been adopted in the architectural industry and the building codes very early on. So the European model for induction loop was more advanced than in the United States. I think we're catching up now, and so putting the two of us together makes us an even stronger effort going forward.
Excellent. So, I might be a little bit biased here because we are the representatives for Williams AV, but, you continue to be a leader in the assistive listening space. I was wondering, what can we expect from Williams going forward, maybe in regards to training? We just talked about loop systems. What do we do if we need help? I mean, again, this is a very immature type of product here in the United States. We continuously get questions about how this should be installed and what are the proper ways to do it. And it really is something that needs to be handled very delicately. There are
Yes.
certain ways to install these things, and if you don't follow those guidelines, you're not going to have a system that's going to sound good.
There are best practices. So with regard to induction loop technology, there's really two specific key things that you want to keep in your front mind awareness. Number one, it does allow an end user to walk into a space, touch the T-coil part on their hearing aid, and now they're getting streaming audio direct to the T-coil in their device, which means A, I don't have to go anywhere to get a receiver. B, I don't have to give a driver's license or anything like that. C, I'm using the technology that I already own and have invested in. And so for these reasons, it makes it a very seamless and touchless technology. So what we're seeing with this bundling of the Williams and Ampetronic brands is that we're able to offer now a more complete lineup of loop amplifiers for any type of facility. And what we're seeing in New York is that this technology is really being mandated now through a lot of the building codes and through the IEC statutes. We're going to talk about IEC 60118-4, which is a performance standard, which means that not any AV, guy in a truck can just go in and install a loop system, because there are training certifications that need to happen. There are best practices, and there are performance standards that now are part of the building codes. And so this is what's different. If you can see my screen now, as we have a speaker or a presenter or an audio stream in an environment, that is presented to either the Ampetronics or the Williams AV loop driver. And that cooperates with a wire that is either embedded in the floor or is saw cut into the concrete, or maybe using foil tape under carpet. And now my user uses access to a seamless and streaming technology that he already owns his own equipment for. Bringing that into the conversation with the end user, the designs that we're seeing now have a particular intent, and they are specifically designed so that any user in any space, whether it's at the Met Theater, whether it's in the Letterman Theater, whether it's at the Lincoln Library, whether it's in any of these spaces, that these induction loops all perform to a performance standard. That means high frequencies are monitored, and also the amplitude or the gain structure of those systems are monitored. And so with the advanced technologies provided by the Ampetronic online modules, Michael, and this is critical, we are now able to have you go to the Ampetronic version of an online module. Let me know if you can see my screen, yeah?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to the training, people say, how do I get trained? I want to participate. I'm an integrator. I've got a bid scope. I need to put a loop system in. What do I need to know? Well, guess what? You can now sign up for your free LoopWorks training module access. And with that, you get access to all of the design training that we have. This is a 8-hour class that has a VIXA credits assigned to it. So if you're a CTSI, a CTSD, or a CTS person, now you can get your credits by taking these design training modules. And the best part is, now that they're online, you can just go ahead and consume them at your own pace. So what that means is, my 8-hour class, we used to have to fly into town and buy lunch for 20 integrators and get them in a room and do this training. Now for our design consultants, our architects, and people that are interfacing with these technologies, now there is an online version with the Loopworks.
That's great. And, I do want to get back out on the road and see all my friends and customers at some point in life. Hopefully that'll happen later this year. So there's a bunch of different technologies, not just loop systems. We have IR, we have FM. How do I know which one I want to deploy in my space? How do I figure out if a loop system is right for me?
That's an excellent question. So as you look at an integrator's options or a facilities options or a design engineer's options to provide assistive listening, there are many choices. The FM version is bulletproof and solid. It's great audio quality. It's cheap. It's easy to install. I basically install an FM transmitter and hand out belt packs. I am now ADA compliant for that space. But lately, we've been seeing a lot of desire for, hey, how do I interface with a Wi-Fi based system? And so Williams Sound is one of the first to actually cooperate with that in our infrared product lines, using a infrared technology that allows us to both use an infrared, which is light, right? It's an infrared transmitter. I have my audience here in my courtroom or my city council chambers utilizing a different type of receiver, either the belt pack or the stethosat style, which are common in Playhouse in New York. That is a secure environment because it's light, it will not leave the room. But now we also have the IR Plus, which means that now I have a wireless component, meaning that I can put a audio stream directly on my wireless network and actually talk directly to an end user's smart device. So as we look at this technology, people have had to decide, well, do I want to do either FM or Wi-Fi, or it's a courtroom, so it absolutely has to be secure. I know we have to use IR, but there's this whole touchless communication thing happen. Why can't I get my end user involved? I want him to use his smart device and be able to interface with his own headphones. So now I, the facility, don't have to polish devices or clean headphones. So these options have become extremely important, specifically when you're looking at hopefully soon the entertainment industry is going to be back on its feet in New York. We're going to be back buying shows, back buying tickets for Lion King and the other things that New York is famous for. This infrared now allows you a modular system to be able to implement assistive listening on a scalable format. This is new. This is crazy. It's mind-breaking. No one has done this. Not Sennheiser, not Listen Technologies, but Williams AV has cooperated again with a Dante component, figuring that, you know what, I've got Cat 6 all through this building already. So if I've already got my Dante audio coming from my soundboards, one click with a Cat 6 cable here now gives me an endpoint that I can funnel any audio choice, any audio source I want directly to the assistive listening system.
So now I can route any audio into my assistive listening and send it out with, again, another game-changing product from Williams AV. I can send it out IR, Wi-Fi, both using the same product from Williams Sound.
So correct. Here we have a Wi-Fi and infrared together in one box. We're also doing that with our earth-shattering FM product lines. You get an FM transmitter and a Wi-Fi encoder together in the same box. What does that mean for an integrator? Why should I care? Well, what it means is now all I need is one input source. I'm not trying to couple together multiple boxes and layer them in a rack. I've got my Dante inputs here to a single audio input source. And then I have multiple distributed Cat 6 cable connections between my rack mounted modulator and my wall mounted emitters. So this makes the installation of an infrared product easier than ever before. Sennheiser, the old Williams and old Listen Technologies all use a baseband cable to deliver that. That cable is fat. Try to get 20 runs of that through some conduit. Sorry, that conduit is full. So it just allows a lot of flexibility. It allows integrators to integrate this technology with the existing systems that they already have.
So I guess when we're looking at, going back to the question is, when we're looking at what technology we want to install in a particular space, if we're in a courtroom and we need to keep all that audio within that room, we probably want to look at an IR system. If we don't mind, things kind of leaking out into other rooms, we might look at an FM system for something like that. And then loop systems are becoming more mandated in some areas. So sometimes we don't have a choice but to go with that technology. Would that be correct?
That's absolutely correct. And we're also seeing multiple technologies being deployed. So as we look at what is my ADA compliant choice, traditionally an integrator or a facility or a designer would need to choose. I'm going to make a long-term commitment to the FM product line or the loop product line. Now we're seeing, multiple product lines being deployed and giving people the flexibility, right? Not everybody has a smartphone. Not everybody has their tablet, but what that means is that you can use a plethora of different kinds of technologies to make sure that you're providing the best end user experience, the best integration experience, so they're easy to deploy, and the best designer experience, meaning that 3 years in advance, I need to pick that product line. It's going to be around in the 3 years from now when it actually goes to be bought and installed by an integrator after winning that bid. So these technologies are really important. And, while the whole smart device thing might not be perfect for everyone, there is an audience out there that says, well, gosh, let's use our existing technology, but I also want to provide an additional Wi-Fi stream for those that are using their smart devices. Now you get that together in one package.
Right. And now that's so important for the social distancing aspect. Again, as you said before, I don't have to pick up or be handed an external device. I can just pick up my phone, download an app,
Yep.
listen to it via Wi-Fi, and I'm very comfortable with my own device.
Yeah, and a lot of times it may or may not be appropriate for an IT administrator, for example, might say, well, we need to limit that stream. Well, guess what? We also give you the capabilities to turn that stuff off. So even if you don't want to provide any kind of a network infrastructure for distribution of digital audio packets over the network, you can just go ahead and turn that stuff off.
Right. So let's step back a little bit and just briefly talk about some of the, we're talking about the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, but what are some of the other laws, I guess, that have been enacted? I know we have a lot here. Have there been more federally mandated or in other states? Talk about a little bit about the laws we have here in New York and how we're supposed to comply, and then maybe a little bit about, what we're seeing in the rest of the country.
Right. And unique to New York, that's a hard thing to say, try it, unique New York. Unique to New York is the local law 51. And what that states is that in 2018 was ratified a law that states that any public facility that is using government money to provide grants or product assistance for their facilities, if they're utilizing those funds, the law is stating that they must use an induction loop system. So how that affects New York is, oh my gosh, I've got 100-year-old buildings. How am I going to get induction loop in the floor? Right. Or we're talking about, a plan to rebuild 300 schools in New York over the next 20 years. So the inclusion of loop now has been mandated. And again, we're talking about the performance standards, which are super important. And if you don't write it down, you can write it down now. It is called IEC 60118-4. And that means that every installer must commission their loop system to meet this performance standard, which is no more than plus or minus 3 dB from any seat in the house. So I have an audio amplitude challenge here where I have to provide no more than a +3 or a -3 dB threshold so that every user,
Mhm.
regardless of who manufactured their T-coil device or what manufacturer of loop amp you're using, all reach the same standard. So that user goes into the space and it's not way too loud at Staples Center and then way too quiet in the local Manhattan library.
Right. And you know, I want to stress, I've been wearing hearing aids for about 15 years now. And I've had hearing aids with T coils and without. So I've gotten a chance to listen to T coils over the years, loop systems over the years. So they do need to be set up properly by the guidelines, because I can assure you that they sound like crap if they're not set up properly. And they sound very good, and it's a kind of sense of relaxation when you're actually able to listen it straight into your ears, when you're at a theater or at a church service. So again, following those guidelines is very, very important.
Yep, it sure is. And we've been doing this for quite a while. So if there are ways that we can help here at Williams AV, we help the design engineer, the architect, people who usually don't interface with an audio-visual technology at the early onset when you're building a building. Well, guess what? With loops, now you have to, because you're talking about supplying devices and technology that actually might go in the floor before your carpeting or your flooring or your tile guy, or maybe even before walls are up and dry. You need to have loop systems already in the plan. And that's happening in New York City and 9 other metros around the United States. For example, in Delaware, Minneapolis, Boston, these new loop mandates are all hitting the street, and it's becoming building code. So the design engineers have to put one in, and the architects have to consider it early on. And this is a challenge because it's a behavior they haven't traditionally had to cooperate with.
So before we go into, we're going to see if anybody has questions or anything for us, but I just want to kind of go back a little bit, because you kind of touched on what Williams AV offers as far as assistance, but talk a little bit about TechBlue. I mean, we have consultants out there and integrators who, again, this is new technology too. How does that help them? What specifically, how do they reach out, and what does Williams Sound offer to help with these systems?
Excellent segue. So with regards to how to train integrators and how to train design engineers so that their bid scope is correct, their budgeting estimation is correct, Williams Sound provides a lot of benefit right directly from the Williams Sound website. Let me know if you can see my screen. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Under our support tab here, we have a complete department dedicated to making your design, your engineering, or your architectural project work. Our TechBlue team is a team of committed, very well trained and educated design engineers for audiovisual systems to help you with design services, whether it's an induction loop or an infrared project. Where do I place my FM antenna? Can I put it in the rack? Which is the right antenna for this application? Our TechBlue team is available right here from the TechBlue website. You can click our button here and contact our TechBlue team via an 800 number or an email. And whatever your design question, whether it's an ADA question, covering and modeling types of questions, we get a lot from our architectural engineers, because anything that's attached to the wall, they want to have some kind of a model for it, so that they can take a graphic model, import that directly into their CAD deliverables. And so whether it's a DXF or a DWG file that you need, our TechBlue team is able to using a simple submission, provide you with that support.
So you're giving back to the integrator or the consultant all the documentation they need to throw basically right into their specification, right into their bid proposals, correct?
Exactly. And I'm the smartest kid in the dumb row, right? But even with that, I've learned that if we can provide this type of information early on to make it easy for architects, design engineers, consultants, and AV integrators, to the degree to which we can make it easy for them to adapt, is the degree to which all the processes in that flow between initial concept to installation all goes smoothly and well, and using the best pathways of communication. That's kind of what we do. You got to give the smart guys what they need to know up front so that the back end of that project goes smoothly.
Well, that's impressive, and you know that Williams takes the time to take care of their customers like that, to make sure that everything is done right. So thank you very much. This has been a very informative webinar. Tony B, I don't know if we have any questions out there. I'm just going to turn it over to you right now, and you can either wrap it up or let us know if anybody had any questions.
Surely. Currently, we have not received any questions as of right now, but
We did such a good job of explaining it all.
yeah. If there are any questions, feel free to leave a question in the Q&A section here on Zoom, or if you are on YouTube, leave a question in the comments section, and we will answer it live right here for you. It can be about Williams AV, it can be about Audinate and Dante. Whatever you have questions about, feel free to leave a question for us.
Actually, I have one.
Sure.
And one of the, I've also got a lot of people who are streaming this live, and I'm receiving text messages here. But one of the questions that I've got is, what types of cooperation happened between Williams and Audinate to make sure that we integrated our products correctly using the correct Dante technology? And what support have we gotten from Bernie and the other folks over there at Audinate, to bringing them back into the conversation? What happened on our engineering side when you started to interface with Williams AV? How'd we get it right?
Well, basically, the way Audinate is set up, we've actually got two groups of customers. Okay, so since our primary business is making chips and cards and software for manufacturers to deploy in their equipment, so we've got we have OEM sales teams, and we also have OEM field applications engineers. So probably going back in time, I mean, I've been with the company since 2014, and at the time it was probably a gentleman by the name of Landon Gentry who worked with the Williams, back then Williams Sound engineers, to kind of make sure their implementation was going smoothly. And that's what we still have, is we've got our own team of OEM field application engineers, that their job is to make sure that when a manufacturer signs up as a Dante licensee, that they are doing things correctly. And again, they'll get the product development kit for the various chip or card or software they're going to deploy. And again, through working with them, we make sure that the product is deployed correctly. So that's kind of the whole process. And again, another reason for our success.
Yeah, I would say that that is probably the main reason, is that you've really taken the time to make sure that each manufacturer you bring into the fold is completely compatible, and it just seems to seamlessly work. So hats off to you guys for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tony, we have a question for you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The design support that you're offering, because again, it sounds, it's not just anytime you're doing something where there's like concrete sols involved, there's lots of coordination and such that needs to happen. Is that design support, is that free or just curious?
Excellent question. And I don't know if you can still see my screen or not, but I'll just address it directly. The design support services is free to you when you're using our stuff. So if you're coming to me and saying, hey, I've got a Williams project here, that design assistance is absolutely free to you. When we're talking about early on plans for loop designs and infrastructure that might require multiple revisions, there are some fees that could come up. We'll do the initial design for you for free, but if it's an airport project or something that we know has modifying timelines, as we get closer to the end, there may be some design fees involved for the revisions. But currently, the induction loop stuffs and the IR modeling and the Dante cooperation compatibility that we have, that is free.
Excellent. The question did come up, and actually Bernie just mentioned that, doing these loop systems can get quite involved when you're having to cut into concrete and other things. And, some people might get a bit lazy and may want to try and install a loop system into a ceiling. Is that a legitimate way to go, or is that a no-no?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. And if I can I share my my screen again, if I could? When you're talking about trying to put something up in a ceiling, you bring in a number of uncontrolled variables. So let's talk about what an induction loop system is. It's a magnetic field, right? And let's look at up in that ceiling, what other types of things are up there creating their own magnetic field? Do we have power supplies? Do we have transformers? Do we have lighting ballasts? And so here at Williams, we really encourage ceiling loops as a last resort. And part of the reason for that is, let's pretend we've got an acoustic ceiling tile. That acoustic ceiling tile is held up by what? Some type of an aluminum grid, right? And so here I have an electromagnetic generator directly above an aluminum connected ceiling tile grid that covers my space. I've got an EMI insulator here. And my listening height down here is really what determines how big your amp is and how much current and power you push to that system. So an above ceiling install should be considered at a last resort, because that steel pan decking that is up in that ceiling right above it also is a electromagnetic attractor. So you're going to suck your high frequencies and some electromagnetic energy out of that, so that a lot of the performance standard is minimized, or should I say is negated, because of this ceiling install. So based on height and best practices, what kinds of infrastructure I need to put above the ceiling grid to hold the loop and hold it tight, hold it firmly in place, and what other contractors are going to come in the day after I leave and go and snip my wire because it's in the way of their pathway. These are all complications that happen when we employ a ceiling install.
So really, it could be an option, but the recommendation that I would make would be to reach out to the Tech Blue team, let them know what you have, and then you can together make a determination on how best to proceed and if it's even plausible.
Yep, and that's where these consulting services that we provide through Tech Blue and also myself, and let's face it, you, Michael, you have been an awesome support for the New York City installation of so many loop systems. We are lifelines that are available. We're free. We're easy. You can text my cell phone or call me. I've probably got 2 calls on the line right now. This is going on at the Manhattan Library. So we're able to provide information, real-time help and support for the people that need it when they need it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, everybody. We do appreciate it. I think we're just about out of time here. Tony, do you want to wrap this up?
Surely, I can do that. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in today to our first ever S-TEC live webinar. I want to thank Tony Strong and Corey and Bernie for joining us as our presenters. You guys, as always, awesome job. And we appreciate the support you guys give us as well as everyone else. Thank you all who tuned in. We really appreciate it. Next month, we are going to have another S-TEC Live, and this time it is going to be featuring RME. This is going to be on Thursday, February 18th at 11 a.m., same bat time, same bat place. If you're interested in joining us again, I am going to put a link in the comments here on the Zoom, as well as on the YouTube channel. So feel free to tune in and register for the Zoom. We'd love to have you. It's going to be a great time. So once again, thank you for joining. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and you will find content featuring all of our brands, and you can be the first to find out some news we have coming up on February 1st. So go give us a follow to find out what that is. So once again, thank you all for joining us. I know I for sure have learned a lot. And just as I say in our S-TEC TV videos, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.